So, a couple of things. First of all, we're not trying to make a whole bunch of clickbait videos, but after the conversation that I had with a few people online about the D500 video that I posted about how I love it, even though it's an APS-C sensor and even though this and that and the other thing, the feedback was that there's a number of people who actually really enjoy it and really feel the same way about it as I do, and that got me thinking whether or not it's a smart thing to upgrade my equipment. And I have a lot of gear that I use on a regular basis, the D500 being one of them. But today I want to talk about the D810 and the D500 combination that I have and why I'm not really interested in upgrading to a mirrorless system. So before we go too much further, I own mirrorless cameras. I understand how they work. I enjoy them very much. So it isn't as if somehow I am putting my head in the sand or trying to come up with some sort of a rationale to stay with the DSLR other than romance. And if I want to be romantic and historical and insufferable in that way, then I shoot with something like this, not a digital camera. Anyway, so moving on to the D500 and the D810. So what happened was that I had a, what did I have? I think I had the D300S, and then the D500 came along, and I bought it because I loved it. And all the reasons that I explained in the previous video, the D500 video, still apply. Better autofocus sensor, blazing fast, et cetera, not too many megapixels. And then I bought the D810 from a friend of mine in the United States who had an extra one that he was selling off. And so I had the perfect pair. I had your 36 megapixels, I had your 20 megapixels, I had full frame, I had APS-C, and now I feel kind of stymied because and there's a number of reasons why these cameras work really well together. Technically, basically identical menu setups and structures, very helpful. Same batteries for both cameras, very helpful. Obviously the same mount, all the same lenses work on them, and I am kind of wondering if I were to buy a new mirrorless to replace one of these two, then all of a sudden I'm stuck with not so much a new menu system, because the menu system is probably pretty much the same, but I'm stuck with a new camera that I have to learn, which is not that big a deal. But for me, there's two things. There's two things that are keeping me here. Well, three things. Number one is I'm used to this. I can basically set these cameras up with my eyes closed. I totally know exactly what I'm going to get from them, and this is something that I've really struggled with cameras, is that I buy a new camera and all of a sudden the photos don't look very good because I need to get used to how it renders things, I need to get used to how it exposes things, I need to get used to how the whole camera just operates. And even though it's the same manufacturer, a new camera is a new camera. And I remember my D3X when I got it and how much I disliked it when I first got it and how much I was desperately unhappy about selling it off when I did sell it off to get the D810. And the reason why I sold the D3X is because it was a little too heavy. And I was at the point where I needed to get new batteries, and they were like $400 each. And so it was time for a new camera at that point. So reason number one, I'm used to them. I can rely on them. I can know exactly what to expect from them. Reason number two is I have a ton of lenses. And yes, I know you can adapt the lenses, the F lenses, to the Nikon Z cameras with an adapter, but an adapter is another step. An adapter is another thing that can break. An adapter is another thing that can go sideways, and God forbid you be on set with your 12 lenses and your Z system camera and your adapter that doesn't work, and all of a sudden you're totally stymied. So in order for me to adequately make the transition, I would have to probably buy a wholesale new setup. And that's going to come, we're in Canada, hence the reason why I'm using the word Z as opposed to Z for the cameras. It would be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $17,000 Canadian, which is an awful lot of money for exactly what I have now. And this is one of the problems that I have with buying new equipment, is ideally when I buy something new, it does something new for me. It's different focal length, it's a different format, it's a different camera type, it's a different something. And a new Nikon system, in all likelihood with new lenses, will be just like the old Nikon system, except it'll be more expensive. All right, and then the third reason, which is kind of a mishmash of the previous two reasons, is that the majority of the work that I do is under fairly controlled situations. And I don't use ISO 51,200. I don't need, the only thing that I wish these cameras had were more lenses with IS, but I don't think the Z lenses, too many of them have stabilization anyway. So getting back to my original point is that I honestly don't think that I would see much of a difference if I upgraded all my gear. And given that these cameras work fine, and given that they are paid for, I really feel that the resources that would be required to update these, including something as simple as buying new L plates for the cameras, or new flash triggers, new USB cables, all of those things that you forget about, or that I forget about, up until I all of a sudden am standing there going, wait a minute, that won't fit. And I'm sure I probably would need new cards. I, in all likelihood, would need some other stuff as well. So and invariably, a lot of those situations only occur when you reach for something and think, oh, wait a minute, that isn't gonna fit. So the reliability, the comfort with what I have, the fact that I'm not entirely sure that the new cameras are gonna do much for me, keeps me here for now. And the more I use these cameras, the more I like them. And I honestly, I think if I was going to make an upgrade, I think I'd buy one of those D850s that someone who's upgrading to the Z9 or the Z7 is selling off, because that would probably take care of an upgrade path on this one for a while anyway, and I'd still be able to use all my lenses. So it was a little clickbaity, and I'm not trying to get too carried away in terms of spectacular superlatives as to why these are not the best cameras ever. These are not, it isn't a DSLR versus a mirrorless conversation. All I'm trying to say is that for me, these work perfectly fine, and I'm not, this, whatever it comes down to, is that none of my clients are asking me for mirrorless cameras. None of my clients are asking me for more megapixels. Oh, and if they were, I've got a mirrorless Fuji that will definitely do the trick. And for me, these work really well. I'm comfortable with them. I'm relaxed when I shoot with them. And I don't see what a new mirrorless system would give me. So for the time being, here we are.